What actually happens when financial fear leaves forever? Here's a strange truth most people never hear. The biggest upgrade money gives you isn't a car, a house, or a vacation. It's silence. Not silence in your apartment, silence in your head. Because when financial fear finally leaves, what disappears isn't just stress, it's the background noise that's been steering your decisions without your permission. The buzzing, the low-grade static, the constant mental weather report predicting storms. And once that noise is gone, you start living like a completely different person. Not richer, not flashier, just clearer. Let me show you what actually changes when money stops feeling like a threat and starts behaving like a tool. The invisible weight you've been carrying. Let's say something out loud that almost nobody does. Most adults aren't bad with money. They're tired from carrying it. Picture walking around with a backpack you forgot you were wearing. At first, it's heavy. Then it's just normal. You forget what it feels like not to have it. Until one day, you take it off, and suddenly you're standing taller without trying. That backpack is financial fear. Not just the fear of being broke, but the constant scanning. Can I afford this? What if something breaks? What if next month is worse? What if I make the wrong choice? It's not dramatic. It's quiet. It's persistent. And it bends your posture long before it breaks your spine. This is why two people can make the same money and live in totally different psychological worlds. One feels trapped. The other feels flexible. Same income, different fear. And fear is expensive, not just financially, but mentally. Fear taxes your attention. It steals focus in tiny increments like a slow leak in a tire. You don't notice the moment it starts, only when the ride becomes rough. When fear runs the machine, think of your brain like a computer. When financial fear is active, it's like having 30 tabs open, all running heavy programs in the background. Rent tab, credit card tab. What if the car dies tab? What if I get sick tab? What if I lose my job tab? You can still work, but everything runs slower. Pages freeze, decisions lag. Your system overheats over small tasks. You're not dumb, you're just operating with your processor throttled by survival mode. This is why financial stress creates a trap. Not just a money trap, a thinking trap. You don't make good long-term plans when your mind is solving short-term emergencies. You don't calmly choose between paths when you're busy making sure the floor doesn't collapse beneath you. And yet society looks at people under financial pressure and says, why don't they make better choices? That's like criticizing someone for bad handwriting while shaking their arm. You don't need more discipline, you need fewer fires. The day fear starts leaving. Here's what actually changes first when financial fear starts to lift. It's not your income, it's not your lifestyle, it's not even your bank balance. It's how fast your body relaxes when something goes wrong. Picture two people whose phones shatter on the same day. One freezes, heart racing, brain sprinting through mental gymnastics. Which bill can I delay? The other sighs, moves money from savings, and continues the day. Same problem, different damage. That difference is called a buffer. Not wealth, not luxury, just space. Space between you and panic. Space between surprise and catastrophe. And space is the underrated financial asset there is. Because space gives you time, and time gives you choice, and choice is where power lives. The unpopular $1,000 that changes everything, and why. People love mocking the $1,000 emergency fund like it's a joke. $1,000 won't save you from real problems, they say. True, but it saves you from most problems that turn into real ones. Because most financial disasters don't start as disasters. They start as annoyances. A cracked windshield, a broken fridge, a dental bill, a travel emergency, a missed paycheck. Without a buffer, these small events become traps. You swipe a credit card, you take a loan, you borrow, you delay, you scramble, and suddenly a $300 issue becomes a $2,000 drag over 2 years. With a buffer, you absorb it, like a shock absorber on a car. Not glamorous, just effective. You're not buying safety, you're buying containment. A fire extinguisher doesn't prevent fires, it prevents fires from owning your house. Same idea. Why this is so hard, and why it's not your fault. Let's talk about the cruel irony. The people who need a buffer most are the ones paying the highest price for not having one. Overdraft fees, late fees, high-interest loans, convenience fees, poverty markups. It's like being charged extra for already being in trouble. You're trying to climb out of a pit while the walls are coated in grease and the ladder rental costs $30. And here's what makes it psychologically brutal. Every failure feels personal. You try to save, something breaks, you're back to zero. Not because you're irresponsible, because you're operating without armor in a world that throws punches. Eventually, people don't stop because they're lazy. They stop because they conclude, this just isn't for people like me. That belief does more damage than any fee ever could. Because once you stop trying, the system stops having resistance. How fear actually leaves. It's not dramatic. Here's the truth nobody sells well. Financial fear doesn't vanish in a moment. It fades like noise in a room you didn't realize was loud. One day you notice, I slept through the night. Another day you think, I didn't panic when that bill hit. Another day you realize, I didn't say yes because I was scared to say no. And slowly, your decisions stop being emergency-driven. You stop negotiating with fear. You start negotiating with reality. And that's when everything changes. Not because you're rich, but because you're not cornered anymore. Let's get tactical. How do you build the first buffer? Forget complex systems, forget fancy spreadsheets. Here are 3 rules that work when you're starting from zero. Rule number 1. The goal isn't comfort, it's stability. This is not about living better, it's about living less fragile. Your first target isn't, I want to feel wealthy. It's, I don't want small problems to own me. If your buffer turns chaos into inconvenience, it's doing its job. Think of it like strengthening the floor before decorating the house. You don't hang art in a building with cracked beams. Stability first, style later. Rule number 2. Attack one leak at a time. Don't try to optimize your entire life. Find the single financial leak that hurts you most. Overdrafts, credit card interest, delivery food, car repairs, impulse spending, convenience fees. Then aim at it aggressively. Make one part of your life cheaper and cleaner, like plugging holes in a boat. You don't need a faster engine if water is pouring in. And here's the sneaky part. Every leak you close gives you momentum. Not motivation, it gives you momentum, which is much more reliable. And rule number 3, embrace strategic discomfort. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't gently escape financial fear. You have to make pain temporary instead of permanent. That might mean canceling things you enjoy for a few months, eating simpler food, driving the ugly car longer, saying not right now a lot, walking when you'd rather Uber. But this is pain with an expiration date. Chronic stress is pain without one. Choose the version that ends. Short-term inconvenience beats long-term fragility every time. What changes once fear is gone? This is the part nobody emphasizes enough. Once financial fear loosens its grip, you don't just save better, you choose better. You stop saying yes because you're scared. You stop staying because you're trapped. You stop buying because you're anxious. You start asking, does this actually fit my life? Money stops being the boss. It becomes staff.
working for you. And here's the wild part. You don't even feel more disciplined. You feel more calm, which leads to better decisions without forcing them. That's real freedom. Not yacht, not mansion, just agency. The ability to pause, to think, to choose. Let's take this story as an example. Alex, the librarian. Alex works at a public library. Modest income, old car, no flashy side hustles, but Alex has a buffer. So when his car needs repairs, he doesn't swipe a credit card and panic. When his job offers overtime he doesn't need, he says no. When friends push expensive weekend plans, he shrugs and passes. Not because he's cheap, but because he's not afraid. Alex doesn't feel rich, he feels steady. And steadiness is a form of wealth most people never experience. If everything I just said resonates with you, if you're nodding along thinking, finally someone said it, then do me a quick favor right now. Smash that like button if you're with me. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway, I read every single one, and hit subscribe plus turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. Let's keep this conversation going. Here's the real definition of financial freedom. It's not, I can buy anything. It's, I don't have to make decisions from fear. That's it. That's the upgrade. Everything else, investing, wealth, lifestyle, builds on that foundation. Without that foundation, even high income feels like walking on thin ice. Plenty of people look rich and live terrified. Plenty of people look modest and live relaxed. Which would you rather be? The subtle changes you don't expect. Here's what surprises people the most when financial fear fades. You stop rushing. You stop treating time like something chasing you. You read slower. You respond slower. You commit slower. And paradoxically, you make faster progress because you're not undoing panic-based decisions anymore. You're not constantly fixing what yesterday's fear created. You stop zigzagging. You start walking straighter. If you remember only one thing, don't chase wealth first. Chase space. Space between you and disaster. Space between emotion and action. Space between want and need. That space changes your thinking, and changed thinking compounds faster than money ever could. Now, do me a favor. This week, just this week, do one thing. Identify the single expense, fee, or habit that feels the most unfair, the most draining, the most pointless, and take one step to reduce or remove it. Not everything, just one. Because financial fear doesn't leave all at once. It leaves one small, quiet decision at a time. And when it's finally gone, you'll realize the money wasn't the real upgrade. You were. So here's the quiet truth most money advice never tells you. Financial freedom doesn't feel like winning. It feels like exhaling after holding your breath for years. Not dramatic, not flashy, just calm. It's walking into a problem and knowing it won't own you. It's realizing that your future isn't being negotiated by fear anymore. And that's what changes everything. Because once fear leaves, you stop building your life around avoiding disaster and start building it around what actually matters to you. Your time, your energy, your choices. So don't chase money like it's a trophy. Build it like it's shelter. Something quiet, strong, and always there when the weather turns. And if you change just one thing after this video, make it this. Give yourself a little space. Between you and chaos, between you and panic, between who you are today and who you're trying to become. Because when that space exists, financial fear doesn't need to leave dramatically. It just stops being in charge. And once that happens, everything else gets easier.